Hello everyone, I'm Pravidi and welcome to a new episode of Plus Plus Adventures. Actually, this should be at the very beginning of the playlist of Plus Plus Adventures. However, I'm recording this after the entire series has been recorded and published because I want to just talk a little bit about what are the types and what are libraries and just some of the terms that you will be listening to during the series. Most of them I explained during the videos, but some of them I don't, so I just wanted to do a quick video and tell you what these are. For example, these are the conventions that you use on C++ coding or programming rather. You place, well, this is hashtag as you guys know it, it's a sharp include, and you place these signs over here just to say the name of the library that you're going to integrate. So for example, this string enables you to do string variables, which are text-based variables, more than one letter usually, because that's what a string is. Multiple the junction of more than one character. The junction of more than one character, be it a number or a letter. That's a string. You also got your regular IO stream, which means input-output stream. Stream just for the... Well, that's just a name that's going to be used. Then you got your hashtag or sharp include vector, and this will enable you to use lists, vector, and the way to call a vector is you create the variable with a vector, you say the type that you're going to put in, and I'm going to explain types in a little bit, and you name your vector. So that's how it works. A couple of my friends passed by and started to mess around. Then you got your fstream. So as I was explaining, fstream will allow you to analyze files outside of the code that you're usually or currently working on. And then you got your CMath. CMath is a library that will allow you to do complicated operations such as power and square roots simply by calling a function already in the library. However, there is also this to call in a library that you or someone else created. Instead of using the greater than, smaller than signs, you will use quotation marks like this. If I wanted to call a library called my library, I would do this, and that's how you call it. Instead of using the greater than, smaller than symbols, I would use just quotation marks. However, this will not let me compile, which also I'll get into a little bit, because I don't have my library. Then you got using namespace std. What this means is that you won't have to place std column, and then, for example, end line after every part of the function. So for example, instead of placing std colon cout, it's just cout thanks to this std over here. This over here is called comment. So whatever is written with two slashes like this, or with a slash and thing, a star, won't actually be compiled, or will be compiled, but rather will not affect the program in any form or shape. As you can see, when I place the slash and a star, everything turns gray, which means everything is commented up until I do this again. So those are just two different ways to comment on your program. Usually the style of writing or the style of coding that you have to follow is the main part of the program goes all the way over to the left, and whatever goes inside, indicated by keys, is, for example, this cout, just the symbol, and it will have to go separated by one of those. But for example, if you have another one of these, this 4 is inside of the big integer, the integer function, and whatever is inside this 4, as it is inside of another set of keys, will go separated a little bit more from the margin. This is just to make reading code simpler. So, what are these things? These are functions. There's different kinds of functions that correspond to the types that you can use in C++. The first one, void, doesn't really return any values. You can just use it to print values or, well, print stuff. Printing means writing stuff into your terminal or your compiler. For example, this one, void function, will just write this symbol, I forgot the name, I'm sorry, and end the line, which means that it will jump to the next line, and will not write anything else there. Then you got your Boolean functions, which you can use to compare values and say if they are true or false. I don't have an example ready, but if you go through the playlist, you can find a very good example on my Sudoku video that I worked on with a classmate. Then you got your integer functions. Of course, these can return integer values or integer numbers. For example, this, a sum. You can also sum by just placing this, and these are loops. When I place 4, it means for this value, which means I, which is an index, which equals 0, while it is smaller than 5, add 1 value to that number. And then you do this. During this time, it will be performing what is inside of the keys, and then it will repeat and repeat and repeat. This is called a loop. At the very end, it will return the value of the sum. Returning means that this value over here, this function, will have the total value of sum by the very end of the operation. And then you got your main program. These functions over here are made so that you can call them down here. So when you come over here, you got your different types. Your int or integer, just for integer numbers. Your float, which lets you use a decimal point. A double, that also lets you use a decimal point. A long, that lets you use a lot of characters for your variable. A char, that it actually just represents one letter. And there's another one, which is the string, which represents, well, you know, as I said, a junction of numbers and other things. For example, let me place over here cout text. I'm gonna save that, and you're gonna see this in action in a little bit. Cin means for this function I want input, and then you place this. Also, string text, I don't have anything here, so let me do that as well. Text. You have to finish each and every one of your operations with a semicolon. That's also part of the conventions. And you can assign values using the equal sign. For comparisons, for example, I also say this during the course of the series, but for comparisons, you can also use the double signs like this to indicate either and, this means and, this means or, and this is equals to. For example, just to give you guys a quick rundown. And then you also have your vectors that I will explain a little bit, and of course then we can run the program. This is the way that you call a function though. Void function, and this is usually just for void functions that will print values or print stuff, and then for example when you want to place a value over here, you cout the value of a function. So to compile, you write G++ on your terminal if you're using Mac or Linux, and if you're using Windows, I'm sorry, I don't really know how to do this. Usually it is the same. G++ and the name of this, which is conventions. .cpp, which is the extension that you use to compile on C++. If there's nothing wrong with this, okay, control reaches end of non-void function because I have a boolean function over here without anything written on it. No worries about that. And then we're gonna /a.out, which is the way to run the program. And it's asking for input. So of course the first one that we have over here is text. I'm gonna write Q, a 3, and a 5. And so it goes. You get your, over here you get the results where 3 plus 5 are 8, because that's what I'm doing over here in sum, variable 1 plus variable 2. The other result is always going to be 10, because you have this integer function over here, and it starts at 0, goes all the way over to 5, and the sum equals sum plus I, which is 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. So that's how it goes. So that's it. Those are the conventions. The other thing over here, the output of the text that I actually just erased over here, I don't know why, is over here with a Q. Just to let you guys know. I can also say end line over here, and if I do that again, you have, every time you do changes to your main program, you have to save them and compile again, so that the compiler or the runner actually knows that there's been changes added. So for example, if I input Q again, and let's do this again, 4 and 2, the results were 6 and 10 and Q, and then it ends the line. So there you go. Those are the conventions in C++. I hope you guys find this informative and helpful to understand the rest of the series, and I will see you guys during the rest of the series and some other time. Thank you and goodbye.